Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Monday edition of Moohead Radio. I'm your host, a big and furry bovine. Joining me is Bronk from England. And yeah, we got some things to talk about. I didn't have a chance to prepare any of this. So, everybody's talking about, Jim Brown's passing. And I've had a complicated history with Jim Brown, having created the character Jim fucking Brown many years ago. And people said to me, why would you create a character name and it's so derogatory, Jim fucking Brown? And I said at the time, because I'm extraordinary.
Not
and
ordinary.
Trent Richardson is just ordinary. All right.
That's true. That's how it happened.
So, but I'll tell you how it ended. All right.
Okay.
And only old viewers of the program could possibly remember this.
Okay.
I can't do it except al cappella. I'm going to be doing this al cappella.
You're not going to do the girl from Ipanema.
Oh, yes, I am.
No, I have that saved. I got that sound tapped. I got that saved.
Oh, my God.
I could play it for you. That's hilarious.
Yeah, you should share the audio. Can you share audio for me?
I could. Well, I don't know. I don't think I can.
No. All right. Well, basically, Jim fucking Brown saying the girl from Ipanema is like tall and tan and young and lovely. The girl from Ipanema go walking, and when she passes, I smile, but the bitch just don't see. Yeah. It gets worse there. So I threw her off the balcony. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, that was the final line off the balcony.
Complicated relationship with Jim Brown. And I do feel like I should address his passing, as does my friend. Say hello
there he is.
To my little friend. You got yourself a big one this time. Yeah. He's peering into your souls.
He's got the goat. The Black House, the Death has the goat.
There are some people who said finally his accuracy returned. Jim Brown was the best football player I ever saw play. All right.
Anyone ever saw play, probably.
And especially for the time he played in, he was just so vastly superior to everybody who was on the field. And, people giving tributes to him in the chat room, and not singing the girl from Ipanema. I think that the RIPs and all of the stuff, and all this thing about him being an activist and all this and all that. The bottom line to me was the reason that I was introduced to Jim Brown was because I was a Cleveland Browns fan when I was a young kid. Yeah. And, through the years, his greatness, long after he retired in 1966, continued because for a long time, he was the leading ground gainer in NFL history. Hello, Christopher Milton Sr.
Yeah, for ages. I think Earl Campbell, or maybe I don't know who passed him. Walter Payton.
No, I think Tony Dorsett passed him, didn't he?
Dorsett did,
and then maybe somebody before him. I think eventually Franco Harris, they wheeled him in a wheelbarrow far enough to get him past there. But yeah, it's just a matter of time because Jim Brown only played for 9 years.
Yeah, but he had the touchdown record as well for like 100 touchdowns. Yeah.
I'll tell you something that I honestly believe. Emmitt Smith, I had the wrong guy.
There you go.
Yeah, that's right. That's going back to the proper period of time. Thank you, Rick. Honestly, I don't know where the theory comes that great athletes have to be great people. All right. Correct. And you're not going to sell me on what a great guy Jim Brown was. Okay. I mean, and that's not why I got to watch him play. It's not how I was exposed to him. When I was a kid, I didn't know that he was, we didn't have the internet, and we didn't know that he was basically doing, aerial, tosses of women out windows. We didn't really know that. If he were playing in today's pervasive environment, it would be very, very different.
Yes.
But that's not the case, and people want to go ahead and say what they want to say. But I'll ask everybody, and I think it's a fair question. We're going to get David into the discussion. Hi, David. How you doing?
Doing pretty good, Moo. How about you?
I'm doing all right. Busy as hell, but doing all right.
All righty.
Yeah, as far as what I think personally of Jim Brown, I think that there were two Jim Browns. There was the one that I watched as a kid and slack-jawed at how he just ran through people and that he was the best at what he did and nobody was close. He was like putting a time machine, 6'3", 230 pounds. He could run over you. He could outrun you. A 9.8 second 100-yard dash. The guy literally, I mean, safeties, when he broke through the line of scrimmage on those great sweeps the Browns used to run, would hide, duck and hide, rather than try to take him on, head first. He injured people like Frank Gifford, who played in the league back then. Yeah. Safeties were smaller, and this guy was a Mack truck coming at him. He was like Wayne Gretzky times 10. He could have been great now.
Correct.
And he was not just great then. He was like an Adonis back then, as far as, I mean, the strength. He was Hercules, And
just his athletic ability was so much better than virtually anyone else on those teams. I mean, and he looked after himself too. As far as that goes.
He had the sense to realize that you don't play preseason games, and they didn't make him. That was the amazing thing. The Browns said, "Go ahead, you take the preseason off, Jim fucking Brown. you don't have to play." Now, okay. How that went over with the other teammates, I'm not so sure about that. But by the time he came out, he was always ready to play. The thing I remember about Jim Brown most was that every time he got tackled, it took him forever to get up.
That's right.
He would psychologically convince the opponent that he was hurt and down. Then he'd get up and he would just crush them even more.
Yeah, the story on that was that he wanted to get up slowly after every play just to make sure that he didn't appear to be hurt by a particular play. So he got up the same way every play, regardless of whether he was hurt or not.
And I can tell you this about Jim Brown. When you saw how at what age he took to using a cane, this game this game takes its toll on everybody, and anybody who you think is a Superman is not a Superman. And he played in an era where they weren't loading up their their uniforms underneath with all kinds of missile weapons that they use. Yeah, I mean, things that using their helmets and they couldn't do that back then, or else they would, be taken off the field with broken necks. Now,
they had one face bar on their helmet, and that I think was a Paul Brown innovation. The face guard. And it was much more dirtier too, because you could get away with a lot more. There was less cameras and less referees and the whole bit.
Now, he did a few movies. Nobody's going to say he should have won an Oscar. And he did have a big interracial kiss with Raquel Welch. He did do that.
And
he would go on later in his life to have more troubles with domestic abuse issues. And he started the American, and that foundation, and that was working with the Bloods and the Crips, which again will tell you, he may have said he wanted to make the Bloods and the Crips better people, but the fact that the Bloods and the Crips accepted him so openly will tell you that Jim Brown was not a great humanitarian. Please don't try to sell me on that.
Yeah, they were afraid of Jim Brown. That's why they got on with him.
And I really don't care. To be honest with you, I'm quite capable of judging a person and separating that person from their work. I mean, Mel Gibson is an anti-Semite, and I didn't appreciate what he said. Now, he said he was drunk when he said it. I think that he should be punch drunk for saying it. But the bottom line is, I just decided not to watch his movies any longer, right? And it has nothing to do, and I wouldn't, I did see all of the, his, what was the big movie?
Lethal Weapon. With,
Lethal Weapon,
Joey
yeah.
they fuck you at the drive-thru.
Yeah, right, with Joe Pesci and with Danny Glover.
Yeah.
So early on in his career, until he said that, but I never knew what kind of a guy he was, one way or the other. Lots of actors have been really questionable people. Woody Allen would be one of the more recent cases of somebody. The heart wants what the heart wants, even if it's my adopted daughter. But again, I didn't bother watching Woody Allen movies anymore. I saw all of the Woody Allen movies up to that point, but after that, it's like, something. What he did is just not for me, and I just wouldn't, And honestly, it's like Michael Jackson. Okay, I mean, when he was with the Jackson 5 and he was a kid, it was like, what a talented kid. And he found out what he was up against because of his father and all of the shit, with his brother, who was envious of him, and Jermaine, and all of that. And you could feel bad for him. And he ended up having plastic surgery, and he tried to look more like Diana Ross. And you could feel sorry for somebody like that. But then it goes over the edge,
Correct.
And the Neverland Ranch and all of that stuff, and children, and Macaulay Culkin, and God only knows what all really transpired through all of those years.
And then there's Alec Baldwin.
Alec Baldwin would be another one, a guy who just has had massive anger issues. I mean, and some of this stuff is really fueled by alcohol or drugs, and some people, they just can't control themselves, whatever it is. Give me a great scene from Glengarry Glen Ross, and his sales talk was fantastic stuff. But I separate the people from their work because they're two different things. And it is possible for a person who is horribly flawed to artistically create something which is desirable. Sure. And, that's how I feel. And anybody who's going to tell me that he was a great
person,
well, it isn't even that, but I mean, that he comparing him to Muhammad Ali, is a little bit beyond the pale. I mean, I understand how there was social consciousness back in the day, and I understand that these two men more than crossed paths because they both wanted to have stances on certain positions, and that's fine. I have no problem with that. But it gets, he's not a humanitarian, and you're not going to make me think he's a humanitarian. I'm just going to keep coming at you and saying he was the best football player I ever saw. Right. So there's that. All right. And there's always something that ties into that. And if you don't believe me, I'm going to give you a quote from a podcast. You got to look out, because if you are famous or quasi-famous, what you say on a podcast can get you into all kinds of hot water. I'll give you one recent thing on a podcast. Mike Tyson was doing a podcast, and the person who was doing the podcast asked him the question, what about Jamie Foxx? Have you heard how he's doing? And Mike Tyson, who, he's clueless. I mean, what Mike Tyson basically said was, obviously there's something wrong, and I think it's, there was a stroke involved. That's all he had to say, man.
Wow.
That's all he had to say, and the family's mouths fell open. I mean, the bottom line is, if Jamie Foxx had a stroke, which is likely, all right, I'm not going to say that Mike Tyson was lying, but it's not exactly the guy you would want to break the news. I mean, he would be below TMZ, okay? And that's not good. But you know, if you open your mouth on a podcast and you say something, people are going to hear it and it's going to get spread. Here's a quote. I'll be completely honest. This is a quote. I'll be super transparent. I'm going to get blasted. I probably shouldn't say this, but I mean, who cares at this point? I wouldn't say that I wanted Kenny to fail, but when someone comes to replace you and you're like, I still feel like I had it, I hope he doesn't come in and ball out, because then it's like, Ben who?
What a prick. What an absolute prick he is.
You know, people who are bad people remain bad people.
There
right?
was a rumor. There was a rumor years ago Roethlisberger was a shit person to play with. Stuff like that kind of really adds it to be true.
Yeah. I mean, Kenny fucking Pickett. You know what I mean? It's like you came right in and you started the NFL with a good football team. And what you handed over to Kenny Pickett was a big sack of shit team, right?
Correct.
And you insisted on hogging the limelight and literally making the only positive thing that happened for the Cleveland Browns in the past 30 years to occur. That we beat their ass down in Pittsburgh in the playoffs in a game that mattered, because Pigpen was too old to even go after a ball that was snapped over his head in the first play of the game.
Yeah.
So bad people are bad people. And again, Ty Cobb was a great second baseman, so they said, but he was a blatant racist and he was not a good guy.
He was a horrific guy. Yeah, absolutely.
But again, you know, nobody's going to tell you that Pete Rose was a great guy. He just had more hits than anybody who ever played the game.
And the whole thing about being a great guy or a bad guy is all in the eye of beholder too, because in Georgia there's a Cobb County, so you know it depends on who you are, where you're from, as to whether somebody's good, great, bad, or indifferent. You know?
Right. So I mean, as far as I'm concerned, Roethlisberger is a guy who is so self-immersed that he wouldn't care who he hurt, including the woman he dragged into the men's room. Right. So the reason I'm getting into all of this early is that we hear this about Deshaun Watson too.
Yes.
Now, is Deshaun Watson a bad person? And I would say, well, he's definitely felt that he was entitled now, didn't he? And what he did for a person of high profile is so incredibly stupid and is literally without thought or any regard.
Mm-hmm.
Now, how many men out there that in the audience listening, how many men do you know who, if they were as popular, as wealthy, and as exposed, media-wise, not otherwise, as Deshaun Watson, how many people do you know who would have done the same fucking thing? And the answer is a lot of them.
It's called temptation, you know,
and entitlement.
Yep.
You know,
Matt Lauer would have done it.
Huh?
Matt Lauer would have done it.
Yeah, I mean, the bottom line is that when confronted with these things, people can make rationalizations about why they're doing it, why they're entitled, how much money they have, and they, you know, and the thing is that those women are also to be put under the microscope, because these people always find their way around guys who have money. Just a fact. The former president of the United States grabbed those women by the pussy. He said it himself. They're always there because they're lined up. That doesn't mean that all women are after that. It just means that wealthy people end up with entourages, and invariably certain women will show up in that entourage for a reason, and it's financially inspired. And that's that. And there's always somebody who breaks silence if they find out something, if they get close enough to a person with a lot of money, and then they take them to court. It happens all the fucking time. So to me, Roethlisberger is an example of a person who's pathetic. All right. I just think that he's a pathetic human being. But at the same time, he was a really good quarterback. All right. And I can say that even though I can't stand the Squealers, it really wasn't the Squealers I couldn't stand. It was him. I mean, he just, and the bigger and fatter he became, the more disgusting it became, you know, kind of like me, you know, reminded me too much of myself.
Wow. What bit transference going on there.
Yeah. And absolutely, Pete Rose should be in the Hall of Fame. What he did can't be compared to what Ty Cobb did. I mean, come on. I mean, please.
You know, if a betting company in America had balls like this company that called Caesar, they'd have Pete Rose as their spokesman. You know,
well, and he could fit right in. I mean, the bottom line is Pete Rose is probably one of the most ignorant, stupid people I've ever seen in my life. He brings dumb athlete to life. He really does. He's stupid, and he's ignorant. I can't begin to tell you.
Do you think Bill Romanowski should go in the Pro Football Hall of Fame?
Well, I mean, you know, only if he can accurately spit on the award from 6 to 7 feet away and hit his target.
Yeah.
You know, look, I mean, Conrad Dobler was a fucking badass who would just try to blind people by poking them in the eye. I mean, there's been athletes in every sport that, you know, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was moody. All right. That would be a nice way of putting it. You know, there are people who just, you know, and now young John Morant, he's like
off his head. He's insane.
Yeah, I mean, he's waving guns around. I mean, there's a lot of people who got a lot of problems, but you know, we can only judge them from an athletic perspective on a program like this. Keep our perspective, realize what they are personally, but still be able to be impressed with their athletic achievement. So
yeah, their skills. Yeah,
and that's what I have to say about that. Next, what I have to say, you know. Don't ask me what's wrong with the Guardians. and the reason don't ask me is that nobody cares.
Yes.
I mean, and I know.
Maybe Rick May might.
Rick May is probably watching this and just having all kinds of like doubling over and holding his belly and, you know, stomach upset. And it really, I mean, the problem is simple, and it's stupid to pretend. The problem with the Guardians is they can only afford to get pitchers in the draft and try to bring those pitchers up to keep games close because they can't afford hitters. And that is the honest truth. It will always be like this. And you can see in the pipeline there, you know, Bybee is a good young pitcher. And so is Logan Allen. They're good young pitchers. And there's another guy down there that isn't far away from coming up. And, you know, if some of these other starters continue to not be able to, or if Plesac doesn't come back and, you know, and continue to pitch the way he was pitching, there's going to be openings for that. But they have nobody to bring up who can hit. They got nobody. And you can see now that it's pathetic. The bullpen is like the gopher pen. And you've got Karinchak, since he's had to speed up on the mound, throwing gopher balls and throwing home run balls like there's no tomorrow. Trevor Stephan doing the same thing. You're getting Eli Morgan, who's never really been able to do much else besides that. And the only good thing I can say is that the little cowboy is no longer on the team because God only knows, what was his name? Tomlin?
Josh Tomlin, yeah.
Yeah, because they just are up in the strike zone and just getting blasted. And then there's Shane Bieber, who is pitches a great game, but what does it matter when they got one run on 3 hits over 9 innings? It's a simple problem, and I'll explain it in the simplest way I can. If you don't have money, you can't live in a home. If you have no money, you live in the street. And in professional sports, if you have a limited amount of money, now granted, you know that the ownership of the Guardians are not going to short themselves in all the creature comforts that they need. The Dolan family will, find whatever ways they can to take care of themselves. But the status of the team will never be anything but what it is, because you can't field half a team and expect to win. So that's that. And it's a shame that Francona has to go out in his career with this kind of nonsense year after year after year. But that's, and yeah, they're having a team meeting, and yeah, it's like, what's it matter?
No.
And the same thing could be said about the Cleveland Browns. If you can't get the quarterback position right, then you're not going to win a Super Bowl in this day and age, because the defense cannot hold teams like in the old days, like when the New York Giants won a Super Bowl because Lawrence Taylor was blowing things up in the backfield. And who was the quarterback for the Giants back then? He was
Phil Simms.
No, it wasn't Phil Simms. Number 7, Hasselbeck. Was that his name? Was that his name? Did I pull that out of my butt? Whatever. I thought his name was Hasselbeck. I don't know. But he was a guy who was an average quarterback at best. It was like when Trent Dilfer won a Super Bowl, right?
Correct.
Back then, you could do something like that because you had defense. Now, no, it's too fast and there's too many mistakes that get made. And if you don't have a quarterback who can get your team moving, you're just not going to win. You're not going to build anything. So don't ask me stupid questions, because you'll just get the same answers over and over again. The Guardians are playing in a lousy division, and they can't even win in that division. God help them. Hostetler, that's it.
Yep.
Yeah, Ron Leffman wins the virtual coffee mug for Leffman. All right. Jeff Hostetler.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, Rick May got it first. Oh, you can share the mug. Don't you two fight over that. That virtual coffee mug is valuable.
Super Bowl 25. God, that's like 30 years ago.
No, a long time ago. The 2 Mets pitchers had more salary than the whole Guardians team. I mean, this is the way it is. And they're not winning either. They can beat us, but anyone. I mean, I'll tell you something. If the Mets, who had lost 16 of 22 games, can beat the Cleveland Guardians, then even the corpse of Jim Brown can beat them. And I'll move on. Thank you.
Yeah. Jeff Hostetler, by the way, is still alive. He's 62 years old.
Hey, good for him. He's beating the odds.
He's still alive.
Yeah, and by the way, if you're a Bo Naylor fan, he's back in AAA after a brief doubleheader stint. Just long enough for the people to get a good look at what will happen when Mike Zunino is shipped out of town. Oh, my. Oh, my. Carmelo Anthony.
Yeah, Carmelo. So the Lakers going to get swept tonight.
Yeah, they're going to get swept. And, there are some people who will relish the fact that LeBron's going to get swept in the playoffs. But again,
it's not his fault.
Not only is it not his fault, you take this for what it is. When you have to just jerry-rig and rebuild your roster at the trade deadline, you got problems. And it doesn't matter how many pieces you pick up. You still are confronted with the reality that D'Angelo Russell will end up taking shots, and you're not going to win.
He was terrible at Ohio State, man. He is massively overrated.
He's old and he's not accurate. All right.
Yeah.
You know,
Now there
and
are
that,
rumors going around that Kyrie is going to join LeBron on the Lakers for next year.
and that's fine.
That won't help them, though.
No, I mean, you know, to me, there has to be some kind of chemistry, but the pieces have to fit. And you can't just have superstars. You've got, you know, a guy like Jokic who's got a Denver team that, you know, right now, if you just froze time and you said, well, who's even going to bother watching the NBA Finals? The Heat and the Nuggets? That's not even competitive.
Oh, the BBC must be kicking themselves because they paid money to show this damn thing.
Yeah, Bam Adebayo, you know, he's going to stop Jokic. You're joking. You're yoking, right?
Joking.
Yeah. I mean, and then you have Murray. And that, I mean, you've got multiple weapons, people who fill vital roles for the team. And Miami's only hope is to keep the game low in score by playing real physical defense and just trying to drag them into the mud and slow them down. That's the only hope. So
And Jimmy Butler, too.
Jimmy Butler, you know, God, how much more mileage, you know, how long could he hold up?
Yeah, he's running on fumes. I think this might be the last hurrah for him.
Yeah, but Carmelo, 19 seasons. He retires from the NBA.
Yeah, well, he came in the same year as LeBron. Why don't people say that?
The only reason that Kevin Love will stop Jokic is if he raises his arms and makes him smell. That would be the only way that happens. And there are Cavalier fans who are sitting there and saying, I told you we shouldn't have gotten rid of Kevin Love. And it's like, you know, we didn't. He forced his way off the team, and fuck Kevin Love and fuck the Miami Heat. And great job by their coaching staff. Great job. Don't get me wrong. But fuck Kevin Love. I don't want to hear about that.
Can I just revisit one of my more usual rants? Is that in American sports, the regular season means absolutely fucking nothing. If you can have the 8th seed go to the finals, and if you can have like all these like ice hockey teams that are like 8th seeds go to the finals, and if you can have NFL wild card teams go to Super Bowls, and fucking stupid baseball teams go to the World Series, the regular season needs to start meaning something. It does in other sports. It doesn't in American sports.
That's true.
And Rick May is absolutely right. I mean, if you want to, you know, if you thought that Lee Majors was the fall guy, you have not met the head coach of the Celtics. I mean,
they are
BCOD is
the fall guy, by the way.
Huh?
They are making a movie off the Fall Guy, by the way.
Oh, you're kidding.
No.
Yes, they are.
No. Make it stop.
I know that's not real good. Yeah, but Missoula, is that his name?
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, he comes out after the game and he has to do his little presser, and he leads with this. I just didn't get them ready for the game. I just didn't prepare them.
Gotta watch the tape, huh?
Bye-bye.
He might as well resign now. I mean, the BCOD is after him for saying
You are the weakest link. Goodbye. I mean, you want to talk about firing yourself?
Yeah.
This is a way of literally first-year coach who get the whole Udoka story, the previous coach who was having the affair and all that. He gets let go. This guy comes in. Nobody knew what they were getting exactly. And he's had this honeymoon from the get-go. And now all of a sudden it's just turned sour.
It's over. Yeah.
And it really, is unfortunate because I'm looking for a story here that listen to this. Malcolm Brogdon says Celtics identity has waned over the season. That means as the season's gone on, the coach has poisoned the well. I mean, could he? Yeah, could he say
anything more damning?
No, I mean, come on. I mean, and who's going to save that guy? I mean, okay. Who's going to save that little guy's job now? And he throws himself prostrate on the ground and says, I didn't prepare him. Please spare me. Please spare me. And, no. Yeah, the team is already, Malcolm Brogdon just killed him. He goes, I think it's teams that have a strong identity. I think Miami is one of those teams, one of the few teams in the league, Miami, Denver. There are only a few of them. They really have a strong identity, and they play by it every single night. They're super committed to it. But then there's us, he says. Our identity has waned all year long. That puny little fruitcake who they put in is no. We've been trying to figure out who we are because I think we're such a great, talented scoring team. But when we don't make shots, we got to rely on our defense, and our defense isn't consistent every night. So playing a team that's very consistent and disciplined, we struggle. Joe Mazzulla is like, I didn't prepare you. No power at all.
I think you should give him the Elmer Fudd voice. But the black collar does after him, man.
That's absolutely. Yeah, Joe Mazzulla is like, done. I didn't have them ready to play. Goodness gracious, it doesn't get much.
Imagine walking into work and saying something like that to everyone in the office.
It's like, what that's like? It's like the absolute example of we got to do better.
We got to do better.
I got to do better. But even Kevin Stefanski isn't dumb enough to say, I didn't prepare him.
Yeah, true.
I mean, God almighty, you don't have to have that kind of an education,
You know what? That's the Ivy League education there for you. You
Nice
never sink that low.
God, that's just, to me, unbelievable. The NFL owners have approved flexing for Thursday night football starting this season in the final weeks of the season, 13 through 17. The change passed by a 24-8 vote. The teams that voted against it were the Giants.
They got to be a bunch of pricks.
Giants. And you're wondering why. It's because if the Giants and the Jets and the Packers, it's like, where's our quarterback? Chicago Bears, the Las Vegas Raiders, the Detroit Lions. We were 10-2 to finish the season, and now people think we're good in Detroit. The Cincinnati Bengals headed for a showdown. The Pittsburgh Steelers, we don't have a quarterback. Voting against it. If they have late season coverage, they're going to get flexed right out of there because they're not going to be in the running. And so that's why those teams said. And Jimmy Haslam, he'll go with the flow. Jimmy Haslam is still trying to cozy up to the other owners.
He hasn't fit in yet, has he?
No.
So, did you see the thing about they're going to let a emergency quarterback as an active player, but as long as they've already been on the roster?
Yeah.
It's crazy, but yeah, they're gonna finally do that. So you don't have that situation like the 49ers did when they had to get some fucker off the street.
You know what's funny about the NFL? They'll allow a quarterback emergency where a quarterback gets a concussion and they allow him to stay in the game. But now we're going to give them, an emergency quarterback. And basically what it amounts to is he can't be on the practice squad. He's got to be on the 53-man squad. And it has to make people feel better that they're going to have, a guy who's actually thrown a forward pass prepared for when their quarterback gets hurt. And we know all about it. And, it would be like getting Joshua Dobbs some kind of a policy, an insurance policy. Is like,
Correct.
because those guys can't even admit they're hurt because they're going to get their chance to play. And God only knows you're going to get He Hate Me and whoever from wherever they can find them, you know.
Art Schleister will come back.
And the beautiful thing is the XFL and the USFL have applied a similar rule this spring. Isn't that great? Isn't that great? Because there are no quarterbacks out there at all. If you don't think there are good quarterbacks in the NFL, you can imagine the XFL and the USFL, what that's all about. You know,
Yeah.
Unbelievable. So, yeah,
Tragic.
so there will be flexing. The other thing that I really got a real kick out of, Dwayne Kuiper's brother was fired by NBC Sports California after using a racial slur during a telecast while describing a trip to the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum. Now,
Whoa.
yeah, Kuiper was suspended by the network earlier this month following his slur that aired during a pregame segment of an A's game against the Royals on May the 5th. Kuiper talked about a trip to the museum with colleague Dallas Braden, but seemingly mispronounced the word Negro, making it instead sound like, well, you know what. Following an internal review, the decision has been made for NBC Sports California to end its relationship with Glenn Kuiper, effective immediately. We thank Glenn for his dedication to Bay Area baseball over the years, and you hit one less home run than your fucking brother. Signed, NBC Sports. A person familiar with the investigation said the decision was based on a variety of factors, including information uncovered in the internal review.
Wow.
Kuiper apologized on the air afterwards, after doing this, without getting into specifics. And he said something that didn't come out quite the way I wanted it to. But he later issued a statement through the network when he was officially suspended, saying, I could not be more sorry and horrified by what I said. I hope you will accept my sincerest apologies. You and the Spear Chuckers.
Wow.
This is the kind of thing, you don't mispronounce the word Negro. All right? You don't mispronounce that. And if you do, there's something really wrong in your head. They always come up with the apology. First, they give this nebulous apology. You know? It's like, well, I don't think I really did that. And then once they get suspended, then it's like, nah. You again lay prostrate on the ground and go, please don't fire me. He Joe Mazzulla'd. But he's gone. That's just another sad thing in the annals of broadcasting.
Well, part of the problem with broadcasting on these, again, American things is that a lot of the announcers are so fucking old. I mean, Glenn Kuiper, I just looked him up. He's 60. You know,
Jim McCarver was classic now, wasn't he?
Yep. Well, Howard Cosell, our man Howard Cosell, did a classic boner on Monday Night Football at one time.
Hey, M. Perry. Hello there. I am well. Semper Fi indeed, my man. At least I'm not a Celtics fan. I would not be a Celtics fan. Let's bring Tommy Heinsohn in.
Oh.
I just want to say this. Why don't they just hire a guy with an American last name? Mazzulla. He sounds like oil. Sounds like something like a corn oil that I used to put on my salad. I don't understand. First of all, you got, who's on our team?
Bailey
you wonder
Hall.
Who's not present for the fourth quarter of these games. Jaylen Brown. Okay?
Yep.
I'm not saying anything. Where did Tatum go in the fourth quarters of these games? What we need is John Havlicek. That's what we need. Bailey Howell. That's what we need.
Yep.
I got something in my eye. All right. Enough of that. the most bigoted city in America, Boston, Massachusetts, let the Irish Catholics come to watch the game, and I guarantee you they will blame one group of people for their demise. They blamed Bill Russell, for God's sakes, when he gave them all those championships. It's just unbelievable. Yeah, I mean, they would go up to Bill Russell after a game, you know, and said, it's like, can I have your autograph? It's like, could you carry my bags? It was horrible. Bill Russell wrote about it in a book. How much shit he took in Boston. Unreal. So I thought that was another interesting story. And then this. And I think I can finish up with this because I'm not going to sing the girl from Ipanema.
We're not going to have a Jerry Springer meets Jim Brown final soliloquy at the end.
Oh, isn't that incredible, though? We're losing people. You know, I did want to say something, though, before I do the final story. You know, I celebrated just a couple of days ago my 66th birthday, and too many people, you know, and I've already talked about my father passing. But one of the guys who was one of my nighttime DJs in Flint, Michigan, fellow named Catfish Cooper, that was his air name. I'm not going to give his real name out over the air. Passed away. And I don't know what in the hell happened. He lived just south of me here in Florida. And we had talked on a couple of occasions. And he had some kind of necessary surgery. And I don't know why. And he didn't survive the surgery. And just like that, gone off the face of the earth. And I can't tell you how many of my former employees, and these people were younger than I, you know, have passed away. And Catfish had a hell of a career in Dallas, and he was in big city markets. And we were fortunate to have him in Flint, Michigan for a period when he was unemployed. And I feel terrible about it. And it does. It's kind of sobering, to say the least.
Yeah, I lost a former work colleague the other day as well. I found out about it on WhatsApp. You know, you open up a WhatsApp message from somebody you haven't heard from for 3 years, and they tell you somebody else has died. So that's the modern world now.
Yeah, and Rick May points out this other little tidbit. Yeah. Yeah, you know.
Oh, correct. Yeah. George Scott, I think it was. Or
yeah, God only knows. It's, tough. And then if you want to talk about lying down prostrate, that's what I should name the program today. Lying down prostrate and begging. Former Texans defensive end Jadeveon Clowney is open to returning, to the Houston Texans. Yeah. I mean, you know, here's what he said, like we care. It would be nice, Clowney said in the interview with KRIV-TV. All my family's here. My friends are here. The guys I work out with can help me take care of my body a lot better being right up under them. Why, you can't take care of your body yourself? No, when I get paid, I don't take care of my body, he went on to say. In fact, I don't care about anybody but myself, and I never overachieve. No. I see what they've got here. They're putting the pieces together. I'm a big fan of their new head coach, D'Amico Ryans. But let's put this in perspective. There's the Houston Texans, and then there's out of the league.
There's the XFL, basically.
There's nowhere to go. Nobody wants Jadeveon Clowney. The Browns didn't want him. Nobody wanted him. He wanted money. Nobody paid him the money. And the bottom line is he's begging to go back to the Texans, who have no chance of winning anything. And he just wants one more payday. And that's the way it works. And you know something? That person's a crappy person as well. They're a crappy employee. And I don't need, again, you know, he was the number one pick in the 2014 NFL draft. I lived in South Carolina at the time that he went number one. So he was right there at the school, and the people loved him. They were so proud of him, but he's a dick. He's a dick. He underachieves. He doesn't take care of his body. He's always hurt. And I know it's a dangerous game, but you don't get into a dangerous game unless you're serious, you know?
Correct.
And so I think that's kind of like Armageddon. It was like, yeah, I'll come back to Houston. It's like one last stop.
Wow. Just shout out to Rick May. Pumpsy Green, yes, was the player who broke the color line for the Boston Red Sox.
He had a huge career, didn't he?
Pumpsy Green.
Yeah.
There you go.
Pumpsy Green. I wouldn't even have known that name.
No,
Isn't
that's
it?
true. That is right. That's the
I've heard of
there you
Nipsey
go.
Russell,
Nipsey Russell
but not Pumpsy Green.
and Campy Russell as well.
That's true.
Mm.
So at any rate, so do the Texans want Clowney back? I mean, for the right price, I suppose. But for the right price, I suppose, yeah, he's been on a permanent, show me, you prove yourself contract since
And
coming
he
to
has. He
Cleveland.
showed people every past
What he
few
is.
years what he can do. Yes.
What he is.
Yeah.
And it's really pathetic. And that's the end of the road for him. All right. I managed to get 53 minutes in, which is more than I thought I would. And I am working like a dog to get, hey, stop that. I don't appreciate that expression.
I don't like that. I don't like that language.
Sorry, Topaz.
That's my word. That's not
Where is
your
the
word.
dog?
Where is Topaz?
I think I pissed him off. Double P is asking me, am I avoiding the storm? Does a man my size look like he can avoid rain?
Wow. Is there rain coming?
I don't know. It's been sunny here. I don't know what storms you're referring to. So I guess, yes, I've avoided them. They didn't hit here. But as far as getting back to Ohio, made some real major strides today. My home insurance is in place, and I just figured out I found a vehicle to drive up there. So I'm getting a car, so that means my insurance will work with the car because I'm bundling up there, and so that's good. And slowly but surely things are coming together. It just takes a long time.
Yeah,
And
a long time.
and it's I don't have a long time, but every day is like a bunch of things that have to get accomplished, and these were huge things today that will make it a little easier in the weeks to come. I want to at least express to everybody that when I get to Ohio, how would I say this in the right way? I'm going to be lacking necessities, and I don't want to bring
far too busy to deal with us. Is what you're trying to say?
No, not at all.
Kidding.
I have when I go up there, I have to get
Start
a desk
from scratch. Yeah,
a desk. I got to get a chair. I got to get a laptop. I got to get a webcam. I got to get a microphone. It's just shit that I got to get done, and I got to go out and find all this. But that's secondary to things like cutlery and glasses and bowls and plates and hampers and sheets and pillows and all the things that you need to make a house a home. And I really don't have any fucking domestic skills whatsoever.
Oh God!
And
you know what you need to do instead of, because everything comes, you have to assemble it. Like IKEA furniture, everything you have to assemble. You should go to like a secondhand shop and get some odd stuff that you don't have to put together, just to get yourself up and running. Then you can go out and get something proper later on.
yeah, actually, I've had a nice relationship with a furniture store, Wayside Furniture up in Cleveland. You've probably seen their TV commercials. Yeah.
Yeah, right after the Kia adverts.
and they've been really good folks. And anything that we've ordered for the house, but it takes time to get in the pipeline. They're providing basically loaner furniture for those pieces, so that we'll have something to sit on besides our ass.
Yeah, that's great.
Which is nice. So, but it's a step by step thing, and whether how long it'll be between podcasts when I leave here on the 10th of June, it might be a little while before I get up and running. And because there's things that prioritize when and Rocks is coming, but she's going to be there a week later than I am. So I have this week up there to at least get the house in some kind of livable shape so that, and professionally, so she can work up there, you know? So we got to have her office set up and a desk set up and all of the internet set up. There's just a truckload of stuff that has to get done. So don't think for a minute that I'm backing out of my 20-year commitment of doing this. It's just a matter of whether I can get my hands on, basic microphone and stuff. Because there's other things that'll prioritize before that, but not to worry. I'll be around. Look at this. Guardians lead the White Sox 1-0 in the bottom of the third.
Again?
The run scored on a wild pitch. Yeah. And here's the best part of it. Next inning, a guy will come up and hit a 2-run homer, and they'll be behind
last. Or they'll wait to the 8th inning to give it up.
Sisyphus pushing the rock up the hill.
Rick May, why do you do it? Why do you force yourself to watch these games?
It's painful, isn't it? It's painful.
Yeah, it sounds no.
But everybody, David, thanks a lot for joining us. And Bronk.
Everyone's really dead. I just want to say goodbye to the Black Cow of Death who has.
Oh, says
he's got the goat.
Don't ask to ever say goodbye because he can make that last
until we meet again. Then until we meet.
Yeah,
again.
Absolutely. All right, everybody. Thanks a lot for tuning in. It's Monday, so I'll be back again on Friday, and I'm gonna get more accomplished, and I'll have more information about all this stuff and the schedule coming up. I got to get my shit together before the preseason begins in football. I got to get everything up and running, so bear with me.
You got to the beginning of August, so you're not going to miss much in June if you don't have like 2
Especially
weeks.
Guardians playing like this. Not going to miss anything at all.
Not going to miss anything. No, not at all.
Like big innings. You're not even going to see that.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you Friday. Until then, hasta la vista, Pastorheads. Good night.